learning self-management is really important. Learn to self-manage, but you also have to simultaneously understand that there are no rules.
Yeah.
So anything that you think you're supposed to be doing, technically, you don't have to do that.
It definitely, if you're coming into the space of do reactor space and you want a schedule, don't always just do those big hitters. Don't do all the war movies because that's what's built your audience. So that's something that I'm really happy we learned. So we now make sure, for sure, that our schedule is more balanced because we don't ever want to just cut off drama, you know?
Yeah.
We can break up this heavy, high anxiety producing works of art with this, you know, some Arrested Development. So...
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reactorverse Podcast. We're coming back from a small hiatus as I was away on my first plane flight ever in my life. So I survived. I'm happy to be back and joined by Maple and Arianna, two halves of Diegesis. Thank you so much for both being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Oh yeah, sorry.
Thanks for having us. No, we just talk at the same time all the time. So sorry if that gets confusing, guys.
That's part of it. It's part of the vibe.
It's true.
But no, this one feels like a long time coming because the channel has been cited as an inspiration by past guests a couple times for people saying they watched you both, and that kickstarted their interest in wanting to start their own channel. And so now I've had them on, and they've mentioned how much you inspired them. So it feels nice to kind of come full circle for this.
What? That is so cool.
No idea. That's
I
crazy.
think one channel in particular, Mish and D, there's a couple that they're almost at 100,000, I think, this year. And they specifically mentioned you. You were one of the first channels that they watched and gave them the idea of like they want to give this a try. And now they're here. Now they're thriving.
That's awesome. It's so cool to hear.
Yeah, that's incredible. Also, congrats to them if they're coming back and watching this. Congrats to anybody who's
it's huge. It's always so exciting.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll love to hear it. But the channel has had, a pretty unique evolution as, from its inception and as your involvement with it as well. I want to go over, that sort of growth and journey as it's been. Particularly, for these things, I like to go back to the very beginning of things, even before the channel. I want to ask, how do you all know each other? Because I know it's you and Maple, but also Chad runs things behind the scenes. So what's the sort of, story behind that of how the team knows each other?
I think you should start with your part, and then we'll weave in where her and I intercepted.
Well, I had known Chad for a few years. He was actually roommates with one of my very best guy friends, and he approached me one day and was like, hey, I've got a weird idea. I've been getting into watching reaction channels, and I think it's something like we can do. He's like, you're kind of big, and that's going to translate great to these movies. And he's like, and from what I hear, like, you really don't know a lot of like mainstream media. I was like, no. And at this time, so we're coming out. So this is summer 2021. So we're coming out of pandemic, all this kind of stuff. And honestly, most of the pandemic, I really was just rewatching Grace for the 7th time for the at that point in time, 19 seasons. Like that's pretty much what I consume. I consume kind of what I did at like starting at 16 onward. So all those big movie blockbusters and things of that nature, I just wasn't watching them. I was raised in a super religious household growing up. So a lot of R-rated stuff wasn't happening. Like I was not sneaking into movies as a teen or anything like that.
Right.
We kind of got started, and he had watched other reaction channels. So we started with shows at first. I think we might have watched the first 2 seasons of The Boys.
Yeah.
And then he was like, okay, let's like try some movies and see what happens. And then kind of that's how it went. And it just kind of took off massively from there. And then we were talking about growing the channel, and he was like, hey, you have anybody? We tried a couple different reactors before we got to Maple, and I knew Maple just kind of from we worked in the same area in the restaurant industry. So we had cross paths a couple different times. We have mutual friends, and I was like, hey, I think you would be good at this too. So
yeah, I was I didn't know Chad. I honestly, like,
it is really weird when you tell this part.
It is. It was kind of like an odd thing. I'm very much the type of person where I will just like, if you suggest something to me and like it seems like it'll be fun, I'm like, whatever, like I'll give it a try. I'm very like open to just experiencing life as it comes to me. And because of COVID, there was a lot of like mental health struggles. I had a very sick family member. We just were going through a lot. So I ended up like losing my job, and everybody got the paychecks, like what were those called? The checks?
Stimulus.
The stimulus checks. And I built a computer, and I was like, I'm going to be a streamer. Like I was like, I'm going to do this. I think in a weird roundabout way, like all of the intention I put into putting myself into the zone of computers and filming, I like kind of accidentally manifested like running into all of this. And so Arianna and I were at a bar playing pool with a friend after we were off work. And she showed me a video. We were watching her Saving Private Ryan reaction, and she's just bawling her eyes out. And I was like, I think I could do that. And I was like, I feel like I could totally do that. Because I too, just growing up, I was really academic focused. So I never really I just didn't spend a lot of time sitting and watching movies or shows and things. She was like, well, there's this guy, Chad, and you just go to his house, and then like you go to his room and you watch a movie. And I was like, totally not sketchy at all. Yeah, like I was like, I trust you, even though like I did not really know Arianna that well. We'd only seen each other really in passing between our shifts, or like in the alley, like if we were taking stuff out from our restaurants, like quick, just like, hey, like I know you because you work in the industry thing. So it was just funny. And for a while we really weren't filming together. And I started my first movie I watched while she was being traumatized by war. I was watching Marvel. So I got to have more fun, I think, at the start. I think my first reaction was Iron Man.
Because you started at the beginning.
Yeah, and I started at the very beginning of Marvel. And it was just shortly after, like a few months after you guys had started The Boys initially. So you guys had started at the beginning of 2021.
We had started and we had been working for 6 months before, like pretty consistently shooting like once or twice a week for 6 months until we actually, were able to build the audience.
Yeah. And then I came in basically at the end of that year in November, did Iron Man. And then Chad was like, this is really new. Like, we don't make any money. He's like, I can't pay you anything to be here. So if you want to keep showing up, maybe eventually I can pay you to do something. But I was like, well, like it's watching movies, and I was hosting and working at Starbucks. Like I had like 3 jobs, and I was like, at least this is something that I can sit down and like enjoy doing. Like I was having fun. So aside from my other jobs. So yeah. And then eventually we came together on screen, and now we've been stuck next to each other's side.
Yeah, I mean the experience from a sort of outside perspective can be a little much to get involved with. I just spoke to another channel, The Final Girls, which is a team of 6 women who similarly was is run by someone behind the scenes, and he put together this team of people he knew through the film industry. And one of them had the same idea, like, what do? I come in and sit down and just watch the movie, and that's it. That's all I gotta do. So there's a little bit of trust to build between that. And you both mentioned, your backgrounds with, film or lack thereof, just growing up and watching, the stuff that you kept watching, or, being more academic. I would like to sort of like dissect a little bit more of that, because again, that's such a unique aspect of the reaction format, for a lot of people, is that, you're discovering these, films and shows for the first time, whereas where people, might have a large extensive knowledge of it otherwise. And I guess I want to ask for you both and for Chad, from what I guess what are your sort of collective backgrounds with film, your knowledge of it?
Yeah, so Chad is a huge movie buff. Like that is his thing. He wants to break it. And like we actually worked together too, like after we started this, like on like a mockumentary. Like he loves all aspects of film, and like that is like what he was doing when we were not watching movies, like Chad was watching movies, So he's a huge film buff. He's got extensive knowledge on a ton of stuff. If you could get him in a room, and talk about it, I'm sure it would go on for the majority of the time that we have allotted. And he's just so knowledgeable. And it's gotten to the point too where he like genuinely understands like what type of movies we're going to enjoy, what movies are really going to move us, and kind of that knowledge to the point where when we were shooting more separately, he had 2 separate lists of like what movies, like, okay, I think this is more of a Maple movie, or I think this is more of an Arianna movie, and has that. Me, I saw stuff on basic cable if I was lucky. Like, let me put it to you this way. Like, I think I've mentioned this on a couple of videos in the past, but like my MTV was blocked in my household. Like, I was not having a lot of early access. Like, going to the movies was something that happened maybe once every 6 months, maybe. And then like we weren't getting a lot of tapes. Like, for example, my brothers used to be like, you were so annoying with Toy Story. You would just quote it back and forth to us when we grew up. I was like, yeah, because we had Toy Story and like Barney sing-alongs for my younger brother. That's what we had in the house. Yeah, I was quoting Toy Story back because that's what we were watching like on a loop. So as much as like I didn't really watch it, I still know a lot about the zeitgeist just at the time I was growing up, you know, like we were still kind of on that scheduled TV situation where it was like appointment television and it was being phased out by the time I got into my teens and early 20s. But overall, it's like if it was on basic cable, that's what I had to watch. If that, for the first half of my life, we had no cable, PBS kid through and through. I can probably quote to you episodes of Wishbone, but don't ask me about early SpongeBob or anything like that because that was not in the game.
And then, yeah, for me, it was more, I grew up I had a lot of siblings growing up. So I think like we were kind of capable of entertaining each other quite a bit. So we weren't necessarily like when I was much younger, we weren't really like, sitting down. My dad did love like SpongeBob, so we'd have like SpongeBob marathons in the house. I do remember that, but it's all stuff that I haven't like reconnected with since I was little. But otherwise, yeah, I just like was really I was just really into just doing well in school, which sounds kind of lame, but I also like just found something I could like pour myself into that. So as I got older, it was kind of, I was just hitting the books or trying to be outside. I never really clinged on to any fandom. And I also think I grew up during the time of like YouTube was already pretty well established. So like the idea of like everything's like on my phone, you know, so I can just watch whatever clips or whatever I want right in front of me. And I kind of had like my special interests. I really liked the beauty channels and like skincare. And so I just kind of stayed in those lanes if I was taking in any media. But I had friends who were like obsessed with Batman. And so it's funny going back and like watching these things and realizing like, I'm like, oh, I understand my friend more now. I wasn't, it's like you were obsessed with Batman because like this stuff is like awesome. Or the Twilight, like going through Twilight with Arianna.
Funny.
Like, I'm like, I totally get it now. Like I just never let myself really be consumed by, I didn't ever get attached to too many things like that or fandoms when I was younger, because it is difficult I'm one of 6 siblings, so we didn't have like extra money to like go to the movies. Like that's just an insane amount of money to spend on doing something like that. And you know, just aside from having like cable TV, but by that point my parents were pretty strict, so like I'd have to be focusing on my schoolwork before I could even get to TV or games or doing anything. So and then I got a job when I was pretty young, so I was pretty like occupied. So I think it's funny, it's like, how do you explain that to somebody though in the comments that's like, have you never seen this? And it's like, I was like same. A little mini adult. Like I was just like running around doing my best. But yeah, and just to add to Chad too, like he's really good at writing. Like Chad too is just like, it's been nice like having like a guide to be able to have some discernment on what is good movies or what are the best movies that we can watch. And you know, I think in the reaction community, there's not quite yet a bridge between all of us. So your podcast is pretty cool, like opening the space for that, potentially for more of us to be able to communicate with each other, because I think it is helpful, because a lot of us are coming in and we're like, well, I don't know what any of these movies or shows will be or aren't. So
it's definitely a luxury, I think, to have someone like Chad to help guide you through, the ins and outs of, like, I guess, one, setting up the technical aspects of things and helping
Oh,
you
yeah, for sure.
being able to just like put that out of your mind, but also, yes, getting through the films themselves and like knowing, what's up next, like, what's sort of makes sense to go from like one film to another, particularly for the MCU stuff, to know like, what comes after each film and each show and so on.
Yeah.
My parents would also apply to. My parents are both teachers, so I think they would appreciate someone who prioritize education over anything else, so
Yeah.
so I think it's important. But you both mentioned, yes, you joined in 2021, sort of at the tail end of like the initial pandemic lockdown era, which was like a big boom for the reaction space in general. And you mentioned how you were going through your own sort of personal developments, at that time that led you to the channel. Yeah, I just want to ask, coming out of that experience of the initial lockdowns, what was sort of the positioning, the life positioning you were in to sort of, be able to take on the channel and like, start committing to it?
You want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. I guess it just depends on how personal I want to get, right?
Yeah.
As comfortable as you're with, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I lose nothing for just being who I am, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just my life, and if anyone got to know me, whatever, like, it is what it is. But I had been trying to go to college, like trying to do all this stuff leading up to the pandemic. And but I've been kind of on my own, like, since I graduated. And so, like, I couldn't get like FAFSA. I couldn't do all the things that I wanted to do because I wanted to go to medical school eventually. And I had put in all that time and dedication into getting to that point. And so I was still trying before the pandemic hit. And then when the pandemic hit, it just really like put everything on hold for me. I had been in a longer term relationship, but then I went into another one with someone I knew from high school, but his mom got sick. And so it kind of put us in a position where I was like taking care of someone again, I kind of felt like. And then COVID hit and all of these things were just really scary and really bad. And I felt like I was like losing like myself or like, and my mind, like, and I didn't know what to do because I wanted everybody I loved to be safe and like cared for. But then I was also finding myself in like, just like the shoes of other people. I was constantly taking care of others. And I essentially was like, I have to remove myself from this. So at that time, I literally was like on the brink of being homeless for the second time in my life. I had no job. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was like, I'm going to try to like do streaming. And then I'm like, something will happen eventually. My relationship was difficult because like I had this person that was like a friend to me that I really cared about, but like relationship wise, like we weren't connecting like in the way you would with like a lover, but I really cared about like him and what his family was going through. So I was just like really struggling. And eventually once COVID, we kind of came out of that hump, I was like, okay, I have to just like risk the fact that like I might lose this friendship. I'm definitely losing my relationship. I don't have a job really, and any job I can get right now because of the market was not great. I wanted to go to school, but I felt like I finally was accepting that like maybe that wasn't my path. And so I started hosting at a restaurant, getting paid like not a lot of money.
Right.
And I didn't have anywhere to live, but everything kind of worked out. I met somebody downtown that was like, I have a room in my townhouse. I had a friend that got me the hosting job that I had, which later was so that way she could become a server. I kind of bumped her up into like the better position, but I was like, okay, works for her. But I ended up having to get another job. So I was working Starbucks at like 4 a.m. And then I was going and closing the restaurant and doing hosting for dinner time at like one of the busiest spots downtown. And like, I was not getting much sleep. I was struggling. Like it was really hard, but I just stayed optimistic. And I was just excited. Like I was terrified of everything that I was going through, but I was really excited to be like in a busier area. Like I'd always worked office or corporate jobs before.
Right.
And so being downtown, like being able to meet Arianna and like all of these people that I got to interact with, like I was just shot into this like social realm that I never even considered working in or being in. And so I really think I owe a lot to like the restaurant industry. I'm married to a chef now who like works at a Michelin level. So like I think like that was the bubble that like started that for me, was like, I just had to like let everything like fall apart of what I thought my life was. Like at the start or end of COVID, I just had to like accept like might be homeless, like might not know what I'm doing. I don't know where money's coming from. And for a long time, I was like eating just the one free meal I got from my restaurant on my hosting shift. And like, that was it for the day. Like I was like scraping pennies, and crossing my fingers that nothing bad would happen on top of everything else. And I was just rolling with the punches. And that's why, you know, Arianna and I were like at a bar having a beer, and I was just like, yeah, you know, I have nothing to lose. Like I could sit and watch a couple movies. Like I need to do something. And I was down to try anything because I had nothing to lose. I was like, whatever. So I was going through it. I definitely was like also in the midst of like, I never was crazy when I was younger in high school. Like I wasn't sneaking out or like drinking. I didn't do like drugs or like anything. So I found myself, you know, like I'm an adult. So I was like, cool, like I can have drinks with my friends, and like I work downtown. So like now I know people. So it was a lot, like learning to be social, and then also getting projected into an online space in front of even more people. So it was a weird time. Like it definitely was not easy. And yeah, I am grateful like to like know Arianna, and like I've made more like lasting friendships out of that experience. And like I just try to remind myself to be like proud of like where I started, because it was a struggle, and like also to be grateful for like the people who I've been able to like connect with. And yeah,
at a time of like so hard to find connection because we were in the middle of pandemic and not being
like and that's the thing too. Everything was so weird then too. Like people still kind of weren't coming out to see each other, or you know, and like people were still getting sick even though they were opening stuff up. So it's just like an odd transition. So that's me. I was going through it, but Arianna.
I'm just gonna call it what it is. Really similar story. So basically right before the pandemic hit, I had been gearing up to go back for my MSW and school and stuff. I was getting all the ducks in a row, and I had been bartending for I worked my whole way through college, and then like kept working in the space because it's one of the best. I hate the restaurant industry, gets a lot of flack, but man, it has one of the most malleable schedules if you're lucky enough, you know, to be at a good spot and everything else. Tip-based work, it gets the bills paid for sure. So I'd been bartending and working in restaurants since I was 19, working in restaurants since I was 15. So like the in and outs of all that. And it was one of those things where it's like, I knew eventually though, I was always going back for my master's. That was the end goal. I was like, this is what I want to do. Pandemic, I literally I did all my stuff to apply. Pandemic hits, the program I was looking to do, I was like, they're not accredited yet. I'm not going to lock in for a 2-year program when I don't know how I'm going to make money to live at this point in time, because we're in that, all the restaurants were shut down. So yeah. So basically coming out of that, I was like, okay. And then I'd been working at the same restaurant for almost 4 years. In the fall of 2020, they shut down out of nowhere. No heads up. And it was like, oh God, okay, so let me go find this other job. So I ended up working multiple jobs downtown. And then basically right after Chad approached me with this stuff, we had already planned to like start watching the shows and what days of weeks we're going to do it. I walked out of 2 jobs in 2 weeks, and I've never done that in my life. I don't quit jobs. I'm like, I've always supported myself. I've been working since I was 15. Like I don't leave jobs. And I was like, I can't do it anymore. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I'm losing my mind. I walked out of 2 jobs, and then literally totaled my car, everything else. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to show up, Chad, and we're going to do this. And so we did that for like 6 months, and hopefully it worked. And then found another bartending job, got back into it. And then we I had more time, obviously, because I wasn't doing anything. And and it just got really lucky. And honestly, being able to do this allowed me, I was going back for my master's in criminology, and then kind of backed away from that and got more into the space of like mental health care, which is what my BA is in psychology. So I just but with us doing this full time, I was able to take a job at lower pay to do what I really truly want to do and help people within the community and things of that nature while doing this on the back burner. So that was awesome. And yeah, that was that's how we ended up here. It's just kind of operating from a space of abundance and hoping it works out. And it did.
Yeah. It was just a lot of like, well,
hope so.
Just sure. Yeah. Like you have to kind of be willing to start, like, and I think that's what Chad was really good at, is like, I think he locked into that mindset. He's like, like I think he said like he'd rather have failed trying to start it than to have never like attempted to do it at all. Right. So I think for people who want to do that, literally anything, I think that's a great mindset. And it feels awkward in the internet space because you are starting from zero. Like you have to hope the algorithm on some part works in finding your audience and connecting you with people, no matter how good the videos or whatever art, whatever you're doing, you're putting out. So it's like taking the risk to be able to just hope that the abundance is there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you just kind of have to just throw yourself into it. So.
Yeah. It's a large commitment, especially again when you're coming in fresh and like you don't really understand, even what the scope of what this is. I know Chad probably had an idea of like kind of how we wanted to sort of format it and present it, but you coming in as essentially the talent of it, I think is like sort of a daunting task to wrap your head around. And when you got started initially with those first reactions, do you recall any sort of early performative learning curves in terms of just getting comfortable on camera and like being able to articulate yourself, with the reactions?
I would say when we first came on, I don't know about anybody else out there, but we're a little neurospicy. So I think kind of talking to ourselves out loud when we were doing our solo videos kind of came a little bit more naturally to the two of us than maybe the average person.
Yeah. I used to sit in my room, like I said, with YouTube, like when I was younger, I was like, I want to be a YouTuber. Like I really was like, I'm going to do this and this, or be like Jenna Marbles or all these other people. I was like, I can do that.
That's where the age difference really
I was
hits.
like, and growing up, my grandfather, who basically like raised me, he was more like my dad to me. For a long time, he was really into photography. He's a photographer, and he also worked in a lot of what
we should probably also we do like, even though we say like we don't know anything about like movie TV, we both were like do have a massive background in performing though, so that was also just natural. Whether like we both come from a dance space, like a theater space, like that kind of thing. So it's like
we have like an idea of stage presence. So I guess I don't ever get like I don't get nervous in front of like crowds or people in general if I'm having to like direct something or speak. So I think it's super easy to sit in front of a camera, and like growing up, like with my grandfather being the photographer that he was, like I always had a camera in my hand. I was always taking pictures of everything and like myself. And so I think the vibe of being in front of a camera and like the stream of consciousness, I'm a verbal processor, so I've got all those things working for me. Like it just works out. So
we have learned, I think more of the learning curve was definitely when we started tuning together to be like, oh wait, what were you gonna say? Oh no, what were you gonna say? And now we kind of just know the space in which the other one is going to speak, because even though like we have synced up, mentally a lot of times how we end up saying the same thing, I do think we both like we know each other. So we know a lot of the moments it comes a little bit more naturally of like, oh yeah, Maple's gonna have something to say on this part versus like where I'm gonna say something over there. So
and just and even from the beginning to now, I'd say like the only things that have come about really more so would be just us, that vibe of us working together and trying not to talk over one another, or two, sometimes we have to remind each other like, oh, something important is happening on screen, and sometimes we have to like pump the brakes on each other just to allow things like to, because we are both so chatty, so have to allow things to breathe for a second on screen before like I do that. I tend to do that. People are like, Maple talks over the scenes, and I'm like, I'm uncomfortable, but like we can only put so much in the edit, you know, and but at the end of the day also too, it's like, who's to say what it's a genuine reaction, and if that's how I'm reacting, like it's hard, it's so you want to like be mindful, but also like we mostly are just ourselves, so
there's not a lot of censoring because again it's there's a slight missing buffer, you know, that filter that should be there a little bit sometimes not there, so
yeah, but as you mentioned, it's your genuine reaction, so that's, you know, the element of like people are coming for, and you know, I've heard people describe it as, you know, like an improv experience, like a stage performance experience. It's just how long you had to go sort of beyond, you know, in a performative state for the camera, and it's something that I think, you know, you take some time to sort of learn the pattern of between yourself and the other person. If you both have similar thoughts, you're trying to like, you know, not talk over the material, and you develop, you know, similar vibes and similar, you know, experiences, because, you know, like one thing I've noticed between the two of you is the lobster, you know, hands for, you know, stressful experiences. And it's one of those things like you naturally, you know, come into your own as you do more of it. And you mentioned, you know, that Maple, you started with the MCU solo reactions. Arianna, you were doing like the war films and dramas. So it was kind of funny seeing the distribution of work at that time, because, you know, Maple was watching Captain America, while Arianna, you were watching Hacksaw Ridge. You know, it's like very different levels of like, you know, experience and like intensity. So at that time, do you recall what
I'm so sorry.
No, it's a problem. Yeah. Do you recall just at that time what the rotation of work was for the channel? I guess maybe from even Chad's insight into it. And were you aware of each other's experiences before you even got to sort of, you know, link up for your duo reactions?
I'd say like on paper, yes, but and we would make jokes about it. But the thing is like I'd have certain days off from my restaurant job, and I'd be coming in after work on my only time, like my only little window of time off when I still had a little bit of energy, and she would be either coming in after I filmed or she would have filmed earlier in the day. So there were a lot of times, honestly, we didn't even like cross paths. And it'd be more of just like, oh, like, what did she watch today? And Chad would be like, oh, she did this. And then it'd be kind of vice versa. Oh, what is Maple watching today? So we didn't really like, we had concepts of it, but we weren't really like, we weren't really seeing each other that much at all.
No. And it was definitely one of those things when we got out of the war movies, for me, it was like, okay, so kind of what do we do next type of thing. Because we had started on that, and honestly, I enjoyed all the movies, but man, towards the end there, I was like, I can't do another one. I was like, I have never served, but I feel like, you know, like this is hitting a little bit hard. So then we try to lighten it up and stuff. I mean, I guess honestly, until you almost finished. And then we kind of got to a point where it was like, okay, they took a break from the MCU, or they kind of did their own thing, and then they would start integrating different movies, and it was like kind of the same on the other side before we kind of came full together and be like, hey, I think we kind of think that going in on everything together just makes, not necessarily for a better reaction, because neither of our solos were like that's or worse, but it's a lot easier. The Last of Us was the first show that we combined on, and then we were like, oh, this is great. And then kind of that when we decided to move more into this show space, it made more sense to do it together, because it is so much more material. It's not just 2 hours of something sitting talking at the camera. You know, there's like 5 seasons, and each season has 18 episodes. It's a lot of just talking to yourself about the show. And and I think that was kind of our main entryway into us doing more things together. And it has made for, in my opinion, better discussions and overall vibe. And
I like enjoy to say that I was enjoying what I was doing before, but I think like now it's like I can debate, I can talk with Arianna, I can find somebody I agree with, I can feel mutually or in like different, and it creates like a more interesting experience just here in general, and I'm sure it translates to the audience too. But just the act of us sitting down for like 8 to 12 hours in a day watching a bunch of shows or movies, it's like it makes it feel like I'm experiencing something when I'm doing it, and it makes it more memorable as well. Regardless of if the camera's on or not, like it is more fun to sit down and watch and like share films and media with friends as opposed to just like solo dolo. And I got really tired of crying alone.
Oh yeah, towards the end we were really just
someone to cry with. Like
Right.
And I think what did it to me was Lord of the Rings, man.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I was so defeated after watching that. I was like, I am not the same person. Like, and yeah, The Last of Us bringing us together. I just was like, oh, she started The Last of Us. I was like, I really, really want to watch that show because I like video games. And so I had an idea of the video game.
Right.
And so I just caught up with her really fast. And we just have watched together since then. Because there were also movies too that it was like, man, we could have just watched those together. Because there's still a ton of movies she's seen that I never watched.
Right.
But it's like now it's like, do we go back and do those, or do we move forward with what we can watch now? So
we've also realized that my retention is not great. I used to think I had a really good recall memory. I'm not kidding you. I like really thought, I was like, yeah, if I watch this again, I'm not gonna have an interesting reaction. And then we went back through and watched Band of Brothers, and literally we read the end of the title card, goes, oh man, I didn't know that. Like he does, and Chad goes, you don't remember us looking that up and finding out that he didn't die? We literally did that on camera. And then you said the same thing in your reaction to Maple that you said in the original one. And I was like, no, I have no recall of that whatsoever.
No, like I forgot I watched The Hobbit.
Oh yeah.
And because we had watched Lord of the Rings together, and so I was like, yeah, like we could watch The Hobbit because like I haven't seen that. And Chad was like, you watched that? And I was like, no, I did not. Yeah. He's like, 100% you did. Like I was like, no, I never watched that, Chad.
Watched this.
And he like is like pulling it up on our like thing, and he's like, I edited that. He's like, you're gonna tell me I didn't sit there and edit that whole reaction? I was like, so it's funny because you'll watch something and then it's like, I guess sometimes the retention, like you think you've got it, like you think you remember something, but you don't.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be more of an indictment on the material than you. So depending on what you're watching. But it is interesting, being able to share that experience with another person in the room. Definitely brings a different energy. I've spoken to solo reactors and group reactors, so on, and people who have crossed those thresholds. And people say there's definitely a different vibe when you're able to sort of like bounce your thoughts off another person next to you, than opposed to like saying it to camera and so on. So it is a luxury to have like a partner with you to be able to share those things together. And getting into like you said, the shows, and then coming together for some of the joint reactions. You started at some point like a really big push into the TV shows with like it was The Pacific, Avatar, True Detective, and as you mentioned, going through those shows is a much different experience than doing a one-off 2-hour film, because you're committed to it for a long time, not just time-wise, but also emotionally, mentally, just knowing like there's more to come if you're getting at the end to like the first season of a 5-season run. I guess how would you compare those experiences from a solo I guess one-off film reaction to like a longer TV show reaction, just in terms of like your overall experience with it?
I think go ahead.
No,
you're good. Go ahead.
I think it is one of those things where you do get really a lot more attached to the characters. So by the end of it, like no matter how the show goes, whether it's like the best thing we've ever seen and has a great ending, or cough cough, certain other show that we finished recently and it doesn't, it's you are so much more connected, and it allows you, I feel like it does make for I don't want to say bolder reactions, but you do have a lot more feelings. You know what I mean? You can watch, if good storytelling is good storytelling, but when you're with the same story for
a year.
Let's see. The Breaking Bad universe, we were with it for a year because we did all Breaking Bad, we did El Camino, and then right into Better Call Saul. And it's like we were so, by the end of it, like we're so attached to like Mike and Saul and everything else. It's like we literally, once we finished, we're like, what do we do now? Like it was it's over. And I'm like kind of sad because it's kind of, not only am I hanging out with my friend, I'm also hanging out with my friends on the series, on the
Right.
TV series.
On the TV series.
And it's kind of bittersweet. I think it's good because you are able to build more on your thoughts and, have more comprehension of it. And I do think you get to see the stylistic choices a little bit clearer as well throughout the show. And you don't take as much for granted as you are when you're just watching a 2-hour piece of media. You can look back, like we did a full breakdown of the one episode of Breaking Bad. Why can't I think of the name of it? It's massive. My brain won't work.
Ozymandias.
Oh,
yes. Yeah. And we were able to go back and just kind of talk about the stylistic changes of it because we were able to have a viewpoint of it to see like how well done it was and all the references they were making and everything else. And that's awesome in itself. But at the end of the day, it is, you're committing to a time product. It's like, it's not just us watching it. It's then the editors editing it and how long that takes and, and just how you want to post. So it is a longer commitment, but I do think you just get a lot closer to the art and you really build these relationship with characters that I don't think you're ever able to build necessarily in a 2-hour long movie.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's basically that. And I don't know what else more really to say. Like I like the experience of being able to do that. Like that shows offer that in the reaction space because not every series is like Marvel. Because like starting with Marvel, it's like it kind of has that show qualityness where it's like
right.
you have every movie and like you kind of eventually need to be on track with every single piece to get other stuff in the future.
Right.
But it's like with the shows, it's more of like a localized story and it's more concise, like a concise form of storytelling. And I don't know, I like working with Arianna because like we're similar but different enough that I feel like we interact with certain shows like different than what people probably want us to or like expect from us at times. So I know we've had like it's like good and like a mix of like, what's wrong with these girls? But it's because we do allow ourselves to get so emotionally connected.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're able to do that more when we are watching the shows. But we're also looking at things through the lens of we've been hanging out with people who are really into shows, movies, and from the film aspect side of it and from writing and all of that. So I think sometimes like the name of the channel is kind of what we actually do is we dig more into that storytelling. Like we're willing to talk further than just give like the ooh, ah, and tear reaction. Like we're going to talk about like what we're seeing and like our perspectives and how we perceive that information and which I think just makes it more interesting. So yeah.
But yeah, talking about the shared experience between you two and the reaction you can have to a show or a film that is wholly your own and maybe not what the audience is expecting to see. I want to ask how involved are you with, say, the audience discourse or like reception? Because I know Chad obviously operates a lot of like the channel, aspects of it in terms of like probably moderation, stuff like that. Like how much do you see or interact with personally?
YouTube has systems on the back end that like filter stuff out. And honestly, like it's kind of insane how much just gets filtered out in general. Right. Even comments that like, you're like, that doesn't need to be filtered out. But it honestly, YouTube, the platform itself does a great job of just like sifting things like out of sight. And it puts us into this really weird area in the back of YouTube that you have to like go find the comments and all that. But I think it's difficult because you want to interact with the comments, but it also depends on like how much can you take if you're running into things that like don't feel that good.
Right.
And also there's like a part of me too that's like I don't find the like the negative comments like reflective of like myself, I guess. Or like of anyone who's putting in work on our channel. But sometimes you have to gauge like where you're at in your personal life. Is it worth sifting through those in order to find the people who do want to talk about like what we're talking about? And I think Patreon has offered that space to us and allowed us to have like a really like solid community of people where we can talk more directly about like specific things that like we're talking about in our reactions that aren't clouded by like just a mound of potential like hate comments or like disagreeableness, because our intention isn't to argue with anybody or make anybody like feel bad, but it is interesting to see from our perspective how people just in general interact with media and what media means to them, and how personally attached people can become to specific sources of media. And I think you hear about it when like celebrities play characters like Joffrey, right? Like we may dig into Joffrey the whole time we're watching Game of Thrones, but like the actor himself, like never would that extend for us any farther past like what we're being shown in terms of a fictitious character, like somebody who's not a real character. And I think sometimes comment sections, I don't know if other reactors run into that, but it's like sometimes the area can get a little overcrowded with people who do take it personally. And we don't want to provoke anybody any further. So we've been trying to like, you know, as the channel goes further on, it's like we don't want to like censor people from, you know, having like their mindsets or however this media makes them feel, because it's art and that's what art's supposed to do. Yeah. Just as we feel something when we're watching it on screen, like people are entitled to what their perception of that is. But then on the other hand, it's like for reactors, do you go in and do you tailor these comment sections and make them, you know, I guess in a way like more agreeable to like what we are doing and what we are trying to accomplish on screen, and allow the space for the conversations that we want to be happening to happen in our comment section. It's like technically we can control that, but I think majority of the time like we've just let people kind of do whatever they're doing down there and let it be. But you know, but it's also difficult because it's like there's more people watching the video than there are commenting. Right. And are we preventing the people who do want to have like more conversations in line with what we're experiencing, but because more people are arguing, more people who are inclined to argue about the experience are willing to comment, like how much of our audience are we cutting off? So it's like a weird balance. It's like you want to give people the space, but also like how much are we responsible for allowing the space for people who do want to like connect with us without having to go to Patreon, because Patreon is a luxury. It's not, we don't expect people to be there, you know, and like to be able to have a positive conversation with a creator about a piece of media that you really like, and then go to the comment section and see it like not be a good vibe. Like, I don't know how much I would be contributing like to it. So it's a weird thing, but I would say for the most part, like I don't tend to read the comments too much. I've rambled, but yeah.
No, you didn't ramble. You put it perfectly. I mean, for a lot of the big shows that really impact us and things like we're really excited to talk about on our Patreon, we do have those like isolated chats. Like we have severed employees for when Severance comes back, where we're just like in there typing crazy stuff. But yeah, it's kind of like she said, there are certain like big episodes where it's like, oh, I am very curious as to what people are saying about that episode. And a lot of times it's fantastic. And then there are just days where no one really cares about our thoughts on the TV show. They just want to be like, hey, no. You know, it's we're not going any deeper. It's we can have a solid point, but because we said one thing that they didn't disagree with, it kind of just
also
it snowballs a lot of times.
It feels like the comment section truly feel like a social experiment. I'm not saying we're doing that to people. It's just that like in general, like you can kind of like tell what's on people's mind the most at that time. Cause I'm like, if a reaction to a specific episode got posted at a different time, like I don't think the comments sometimes would be the same depending on what's going on like in the world. So it's really weird, like just like how like the pressures of what people are obviously going through, like translate to us on our side, which is where I think it's like, I don't ever really take any thing like negative too personally, because it's like, sometimes if I peak and it's not great, I'm like, damn, you know what? We're all going through it. And if you gotta like punch through the screen at me, if it makes you feel better, then I'll let you have it. If it prevents you from like, if it helps you blow some steam to just move on with your day, like it's fine, man. Like I'll let it go. So it's a weird, and I don't know. I know some people, you really do have to have tough skin to be in that space. I see people sometimes like, I definitely think when we started, I took things a little bit more like, what is this? Like I would get like kind of like, like antsy about it, just enough that it was like, okay, like I need to just like figure that out and like move on from it. But it gets easier as you go on, and it's like nothing is really that personal, and we're all people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know you're 100% right. I mean, and that's a really, great way to look at it is, yes, like sort of trying to understand the sort of worldly societal impact of like what's going on with like a comment section and the viewership in general, specifically the discrepancy between your viewing experience and theirs when they saw it years ago, seasonally, and so on. There's a book I have that I've read that I really love. It's called Ways of Seeing. It's about that sort of like artistic insight, like understanding like how does an environment impact the work of the art and people's perception of it.
Right.
And it's tough. Like you mentioned, it's tough to find that balance for your own peace of mind, for creating a safe space for the community to want to come engage with you. So that way they're not being scared off by like, some like, particularly bad actors. People can have different opinions, but you don't want that to be fostered to something that's like really, really toxic.
Yeah.
And, I think that you mentioned it a little bit before, but I think that comes to out the most with Game of Thrones, which you just finished, which again has a very notorious, reception from yourself and from the larger fandom, and that's really something that I do like to watch people's reactions to, because again, I want to see how does this impact someone who's like binging it, not waiting yearly, like going through this, doesn't have like a 10-year attachment to the character, so on. But I think you kind of fell in line with like where everyone sort of else did with the ending. For something like that, again, for something that's such a large commitment and something that starts so strong. What was your experience, I guess, getting through the latter half of the series and then realizing at some point that they might not stick the landing here? And how does that impact your ability to convey your true emotions and like, your thoughts about it because of what we just talked about with like the expectations from the audience?
I have to say that while we knew that going in that the majority of the consensus was like, it falls off. You know what I mean? We weren't ever told exactly what season it falls off or where or kind of, the exact moment where it's like, no, this is the last season. And it's, for us, I felt like we were really lucky because we were watching for Game of Thrones. We kind of really decided to hunker down and drive ourselves into the ground a little bit. And we were watching at that point in time 2 episodes of everything. Right. So
we were doing too much.
We were doing too much. We overcommitted. We tried. And that's like we had to take a break. It was needed. It was great. I feel like we came back better than ever. But with that being said, because we were watching it 2 of everything, we finished well before the bad seasons hit YouTube. So we weren't getting those comments of like, this is where you should stop. You know what I mean? Like we weren't seeing that as we were watching it. And because it had been done for so long, the people that we're interacting with as well, like they're not like Chad was never hitting us with like right here. That's where it goes to crap. But what we would notice what was happening though, is we'd go in and we'd watch it. And I would say, I don't even think we even thought it was going bad until like maybe the end of season 7.
My first major remembrance of being like, was they were looking longingly at each other.
Yeah, so like that is honestly, see again, it's all like such a mess in my brain from because we did
after
like,
Jon Snow gets to her little island.
And Tyrion's like, oh well, they were looking at each other longingly. We're like, no, where? We didn't. This is a throwaway comment in the other episodes. No, they weren't. They're just they're trying to meet halfway. Like he doesn't want to bend the knee. She wants him to bend the knee right now. Like calm down. But I think it was about the time where we realized where it really did start to hurt. I didn't think it was until like honestly middle of like really truly I'm not having fun and this feels stupid. Beginning after I'm gonna say right after the Night King gets slayed, because even in that moment we're crying, we're feeling all these things. We think it like if you watch our reaction, like we really were impacted by that episode, but I'm not kidding you. And then we gave her a discussion because it's right there and you're having all those emotions. And we walked downstairs and we were like,
I was like, wait a minute.
Why did Arya kill the Night King? You know what I mean? And I think it was kind of, that was like, we didn't have that space to process it like you would going week to week or whatever, or years. It's like, we were still, I felt really still connecting to it and understanding for the most part where they were trying to go with it. And then we'd like be like, but wait, why?
I know we'd step out after like letting it cool down, and I'm like, we almost need to go back up there and turn the camera back on, because
because actually now I'm mad.
Wait a minute.
Now I'm mad, and that's why I kind of got to the point where we were starting those later episodes, and I really do think it wasn't until that last season that we really and then you start to see, because after you're having that discussion beforehand, you go to an episode and it's like, now I kind of see, now I understand, like but I felt like we still had a genuine reaction, because again, we knew it fell off, but no one was like, this is the season. And if they were, we were still enjoying it.
And by that point in time, like to the point of audience members being able to like be like, oh, it's right here, or we were already done.
We were done.
Like we were already done and basically halfway finished with the House of Dragons. So it's like we're like already so far ahead that it's like, well, yeah, we we could have been warned. We had an idea, but which I honestly like that better, that like, because I like the idea that even if we're watching something, we know that like the audience is telling us like, nah, that craps out at the end, like not worth it. It's like I'm getting to experience, it's like a reverse reaction. Like I'm getting the feeling of what I think people who watch reactions get when we get to watch something, because I get to take part in like a piece of like pop culture that I didn't get to experience with everybody, where you guys probably were watching this like week to week and then waiting the years in between for the next seasons and everything, and yes, we get to binge it, but it's like I want to experience the crappy end. Like let me have that moment too. Like let me feel how bad it sucks. Like I want to know. Like so it's like kind of I tend to not mind as much. I that's why I love Arianna so much too, because like where I'm willing to just be like, whatever, she's kind of like, no, like this doesn't make any sense, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm just rolling with.
I was going through it that last season. I was getting so mad.
But I think it makes it more fun for me, because like I love just like that I get to work with you, and like you're so like passionate, and she can be so passionate about it, and I can see it from her perspective, but I can also just like roll with things a little bit. So it really makes it enjoyable for me still. Like I have a very good experience with the end of Game of Thrones, regardless of how the show went.
Right. I talked to Sean Tanktop, who owns runs the Burlington Bar, Game of Thrones reactions. If you ever seen like the people in the big bar watching it on screen, stuff like that. And he obviously had a big commitment to the show, but he mentioned, go through the issues he had with it in the last season. And so when he calls it the milk moment, the idea of going down to get a glass of milk in the middle of the night and thinking about suddenly being like, that doesn't make sense. It just clicks in your head of, how that sort of doesn't really add up. And so you start thinking, look at it differently. And but having, like you said, the experience of being able to do it together is also impactful, and being able to go through together and like share that, especially if you're doing it before it hits YouTube, and so that is wholly your experience before you get to share it with people to receive it, and that's a big part of, I think, obviously for this venture when it comes to reactions and doing group reactions, particularly for you two, you get to share a lot of heightened emotions and stress, and particularly for heavy episodes of shows or movies, there's a lot of tears, and tears is like a big, part of the reaction experience. And I like to really sort of dissect, that aspect of it between people. I guess, how do you sort of, approach the sensation of feeling tears coming on and the emotional weight of something hitting you, and trying to like parse that out with, like, again, there's a camera in front of you, there's someone next to you, you're trying not to cry over their thoughts, or you're trying to like to articulate yourself through the tears, so on. I guess, how do you sort of like I guess, if you can, mentally sort of parse that out and get through that?
I guess we don't, though. Like I'm sorry, I'm crying over you if it's happening.
We have gotten really lucky that the really hard hitting stuff that is making us like really have a moment. It's affecting us both pretty similarly. Yeah, we have very strong levels of empathy together, like as a whole. Like we really are feeling, you know, what the characters are feeling, which I think again kind of goes into why our reactions do hit the way they do. So there's a lot of, I think
we're very similar. Like it is crazy. We are actually like extremely similar in a lot of the ways that we process and like view the world. Like a lot of our like moral, just like morals ethics, like we're very similar in the way that like we just like handle or feel things.
I think the only time that it actually even becomes the problem is like at the end of the Lord of the Rings, where I'm like trying so hard to stop sobbing, and then she made me laugh, so I'm actively sobbing and laughing at the same time.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it just makes for good content. There's really not a space. I think, what did we watch? You started to tear up when we were watching Shrek. And you're like,
I just watched Shrek.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm sorry, this is making me cry. And it's like, no, you're good. Like, it's very rare that one of us is crying and one of us isn't. Like, Shrek didn't hit me in the heart the way it hit her.
I was like, I don't know what's going on today.
But just let her breathe. And usually 9 times out of 10, and I can feel it. So if I feel myself like, oh, they're coming, the tears are coming, I'm closer to the tissue box. So I'm just getting them ready for us.
Yeah, she'll just pull a couple.
I'm just like, here we go.
That's my cue. I'm like, all right, we're crying. Like, here we go. I can lock in on this.
It's not as much of a cue as it's like, I don't know. And I'm just an ugly crier. So I try to, how that affects me on camera is just like, I know how ugly of a crier I am. I know me and Kim K share, even though she stopped kind of moving her face, but like, I know what's happening. The moment it nose and mouth, and everyone wants to be like, oh, you're playing it up and you're faking. I'm like, no, I'm trying to bring it in. That's why this is happening, because I'm trying not to get overtly, because I'm a sobber on top of it. So I'm trying so hard not to go there.
Yeah,
as extreme as sometimes it can happen. And Maple's just got like 4 lone tears running down her cheeks, just like glistening. And I'm like,
I would say like if there were any like thoughts on like crying, you know, again with the neurospicy thing, whether I am or not, I do think like the only tailoring that I do to myself is when I first started on the channel, it was probably some Marvel thing, and Chad was giggling because he's like, you kind of cry like inward, and I was like, what does that mean? And he showed me a video, and like I'm like a turtle sometimes, like I'll like pull into myself. So the only thing that ever happens that I still think about when I cry sometimes is I'm like, cry forward. Cry forward. Because if not, I have a tendency to like kind of curl back into myself. So I'm always like, here's my tears. Like, so aside from that, like, I don't think we ever really, like, if we're crying, that's just what's happening. It is what it is.
And we're never forcing the cry.
Yeah, no, you can't. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to. And there are times where Chad has even said in certain things, he's like, man, I thought you would have cried there, but then like The Room, have you seen The Room? The Room didn't make me cry, but the Disaster Artist made me cry. So, and he's like, it's always like, I will cry sometimes, and it's like, what if I do it? Shrek? I don't know. I just felt really like moved, I guess. So it's just, I don't really ever know what will actually make me cry, but I am a crier. So I guess being a crier kind of helps. Like, I think you have to be emotionally open for reactions to like work for you in some way. Like, you need to be able to allow yourself to like feel things regardless of who's going to see that or what that looks like. It's a good form of release. Movies are good for that. Like, I feel like we can't be the only ones that like, I've got comfort movies where it's like, if I'm feeling sad or like I need to like release some like emotion or like feel something, then it's like, whatever, I'll put this movie on, I'll put this show on, and like I'll just get in my feelings, kind of like a good song, you know? Like, I think movies can be the same for people. Just let yourself feel what you need to feel and do your cry it out, do whatever. So
it can be very cathartic depending on what the material is. Again, it's something that, you know, you get a little more attuned to as time goes on through it, and like you get used to like sort of like the emotions of, you know, getting through a reaction that's really heavy and then taking a break afterwards and so on. And for the two of you, again, the rotation of the channel is very heavy. You, like you said, you were doing a little while ago, watching 2 episodes of everything. At this point in time, now, several years into it, I guess, what approaches do you take to avoid just things like burnout, or just like, stagnation between just like, the banter and stuff like that, and maintaining the friendship between you two on and off camera?
Honestly, her and I like are usually pretty like scheduled people. So I think learning self-management is really important. You have to learn to self-manage, but you also have to simultaneously understand that there are no rules.
Yeah.
So anything that you think you're supposed to be doing, technically, you don't have to do that. And it's hard as a creative because and just being a person in general, trying to do something creative, it's like you want structure. I think everybody wants structure. But then it's like, I think at the start, we put ourselves into a box of structure, trying to like project ourselves out farther. And without realizing like we place the rules on ourselves. So any rules that we're following or methods that we're moving forward with, we've done that to ourselves.
Yeah.
So when you get to a point of burnout, it's having to accept like, well, I did this, and any point in time, we could have come together and changed the method or changed the process. And just being more aware, I think, of that is really important.
Yeah.
Just in general. So, and that's where I think for her, I was going to say, with the crying and all this stuff and how we show emotions differently, I think our emotional capacity really plays into how we're capable of getting work done in general. And luckily, like Arianna is good at feeling things like very upfront and very forward, like very immediately. So like, whereas I'm kind of like, I'll put my head down, I'll do as much work as I can get done. So in terms of getting our stuff done, I'm good at like being a driving force, but I think Arianna does a good job of kind of being like, okay, what are we actually physically capable of?
Yeah.
And what's the emotional capacity, so that way we don't burn out. And so I think allowing everybody to have their strengths to find balance has worked a lot better.
Another thing that it was a hard lesson to learn. I'm glad we learned it. It's like we have gotten so much better on looking at how our scheduled is weighed. How many do we have comedies in the schedule? Is it all dramas? Is it this? Is it that? Because not this past summer, but the summer before, we had a hard lineup of shows that we were watching consistently. And we were both at the time, like we had experienced a lot of family members losses, and a lot of stuff that was going on. And we, prime example, we were watching Haunting of Hill House, and we started literally the week I got back from my brother passing, and like my brother was my best friend. So like someone, so it was a very heavy show. And we were also watching at the same time of, I think, the end of Breaking Bad. We were watching Shogun. We had no comedies in the mix, and at that time we were only doing 2 days a week. So even though we were really going through it, it didn't feel as rough.
Yeah.
And then, but then we got towards the end, I was like, I can't do it anymore.
She's working, and like trying to find that balance, right? Where it's like you want to watch certain things and you want to react to specific things, but you have to consider like, hey, because if you are a feeler, which helps you react on camera, it's like you have to consider what you're going through in your personal life, because she was also working with the public and like working with like the homeless community, and I was going to school for yoga instructing, and which ended up being like a extremely therapeutic experience. I thought we were gonna learn like, okay, here's downward facing dog, like here's the sequence, like go teach that. And they were like, no, so like, what's this childhood memory and how does that connect to this experience in your life that's brought you here to this moment with these people that you don't know, and like tell us. And I was like, I'm not okay. Like, so
it definitely, if you're coming into the space of your reactor space and you want a schedule, don't always just do those big hitters. Don't do all the war movies, because that's what's built your audience, because that's going to put you in a space where, that is where you are emotionally and how you're feeling in your body. Because again, it's kind of like it's not the same thing as being an actor. Let me make that very clear. I'm not becoming the character, but when you are consuming all this media, your body doesn't know that this isn't reality, or you're not going through that, especially if you are a big feeler. So that's something that I'm really happy we learned. So we now make sure for sure that our schedule is more balanced, because we don't ever want to just cut off drama, but we have now learned that like we can't just do hard hitting heavy shows all at the same time, because what that's going to lead us to not being okay. So now we're like, okay, we've got 3 heavy shows for the most part, and then we've got 2 surefire comedies that keeps us balanced. We can, we can break up this heavy, high anxiety producing works of art with this, some Arrested Development.
And I also think the camp channels helped with that too. So like even expanding into other projects has helped.
Yeah, for sure.
Where like the camp channel is more of like just like it's just more fun. Like
it's fun.
We can kind of just interact with the material because it's like these fun like blockbuster movies. And it's new, so we're still trying to like nail down and get people to understand that like we're not saying the movies are bad. Well, Arianna maybe one time said that like, and there are bad movies on there, but it's like it's more just like these are like those crazy movies, like they're super fun. I think that as they age, like specific things can be considered camp. Having that space where it's like these are just more of the fun movies that we and the kind of the space that we can just tailor just that specifically has been nice as well. And it's funny seeing like our Patreon kind of picks up on the fact they're like, man, these 2 comedies you guys are watching are going to be doing heavy lifting. Attack on Titan, like we're in the thick of that. Like it's so, and it is, it's like a lot of things we want to watch are heavier, like, but they're good. But yeah, I think
you got to know yourself and how much you can personally take on, because you think you're just going to sit down and you're just going to watch some shows, it'll be fine. But it's like when you've got 4 shows that are hitting the climax point of all the heavy episodes, and guess what, guys, it will line up in 1 week. We've experienced it out. We have taken, that's where I come in. I'm like, hey, we've watched this, you sure you want to go do this next?
I'm like,
I don't think we should, because I would like to feel okay when I get home and like, not sick.
All of the shows will have the worst things happen all at the same time, and it's like one day we'll just be like, we're just wrecked, because it's like
somehow nothing. And it doesn't matter what order. It's just if you're gonna watch that kind of prestigious television, eventually it's gonna line up on one day and it's gonna hit you hard. So.
And it's just wild, like how like serendipitous certain things can be. Like she said, like watching Hill House and like coming back from her brother's funeral, and now we're literally watching a show that's like kind of aligning like with things that are happening in our life. It's just weird sometimes how like media will do that, and it's just odd, so you just kind of have to roll with it. So
it impacts your, like you said, Arianna, your mind and your body has to go through an emotional process regardless of what the material is. It's something that you had to sort of get through, and it's can be difficult to when things line up and you're doing a hell week of climaxes of like different seasons of shows, and it's like the end and like finales and so on, so it can be like a huge weight to carry for that week. And you did mention your brother, and I wanted to sort of bring up just the process of what that meant for your experience with the channel. I mean, obviously, it's a very personal time for you, but I would like to ask, in terms of your experience at that time, how did the channel itself, sort of help or feel impacted or impactful by that time in terms of like being able to come back to this, especially with what you've mentioned before, how this was an impactful experience for you starting it in your life, and now this is something you could come back to as like sort of like a stable point to look for.
Me and Maple as a whole, we try to be as organized and kind of on our shooting schedule. At the time, I was still working full time at my main job, so that it was a little bit difficult because I was working 40 hours, a 9 to 5. So it's a lot harder. So after I'd get done on a Thursday or something, come in and shoot, and then we'd shoot on a weekend day. And that was kind of our schedule for the first 2 years or so. So where we are lucky is we purposely are ahead on shows. So if there is something random comes up, or, we had the passings happening for both of us, we were able to take that time, like, okay, can we reschedule? Can we refit? We're all pretty what we try to do as the talents, like we don't want the editors to have to wait on us to be able to do their projects type of thing. So we give ourselves enough leeway that like if we need to take, hey, we can't shoot this week, let's shoot extra this week because I'll be going this week. When something like that happened, we did get really lucky that there had trips been coming up in the first place that we had shot extra.
Yeah.
And as sad as it is, we also got very lucky that when we found out the news, we were at the end of a shoot day. So actually found out here. So it kind of just worked out that way. At the time, why I do love doing this and love doing this with the team that we're doing with, we're going to make it work. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be a balance. It's not going to be, if we have to message Patreon users and be like, hey, we've had a week, you're not getting this content, but just know that we will be making it up on the back end. And now we have learned to kind of just create the schedule in that buffer and everything else. It kind of just like The Haunting of Hill House, it did hit a lot harder. I know a lot of people were like, this isn't as sad as they're making it. Like there were some comments or, on the tubers like, why do they seem like they're a little bit more mellow when watching it? Like they're not having these big, like scared, like I thought we still had big reactions to the scary parts because it's a scary show.
I think I was frozen in my chair, dude.
Yeah, it was but it is, at the end of the day, it's not just a horror. It's a very heavy emotional show. They're going over topics of addiction, family dynamics. One of the siblings has like severe OCD or whether that be because of their psychic abilities or not with the house. You know what I mean? There's a lot of heavy topics besides just the bent neck, besides the just sorry, that bent neck.
I know we're trying not to cuss.
Yeah, but there's a lot of other dynamics that were going into that show. So it was already a very heavy show. I think it did make certain moments that may not have gotten your average viewer as emotional. It helped. I was a little bit more emotional on it because, again, it's one of those things like they're losing their sibling and things of that nature. So it was hitting a lot closer to home. Yeah. But overall, with the channel, I think that we knew what was going on. There's that open and honest communication, and like we are friends first and foremost. So there's a lot of support coming out of that. So that was super helpful.
Right.
Yeah, I think being able to like just be slightly ahead and like we call it our bucket. Like we have like a little bucket ahead. And generally we try to plan because we are so organized, like planning out like anything that we think we have coming up in the future. So generally there's always kind of been content available. And yeah, luckily like our editors are amazing. Like we have such a good group of people like backing the channel. And I think like we just feel like in part like I just care about them a lot and like their stability. And so it's like unfortunately to some degree it's like if I'm going through something like I feel in part responsible for like the people who are supporting me back. And like I have to show up like as like we have to be here as the face of everything. So it's like if we're not willing to show up and just like lock in for a few hours, then and with reason, like
we are definitely encouraging like, hey, if today is not the day, like things are going on today, like take a beat.
But we will like if it's like if we need to take today, then we're already going to be okay, what day then are we making this up to make sure that like everybody's still taken care of and like that content is still there. Because fortunately, like our editors work full time for us. And like we want to be able to get to a place where we can provide more for them and like more for their families and everything. And so I just in part like feel like responsible, but there is a balance and like there's a way to do it. And like we're fortunate now that like we have the time to be able to spread our schedule out a little bit more, so we're not just stuck after 40-hour work weeks coming in on the only days we have off.
Yeah, because that was messy. It was a lot harder. It was a lot harder. If you weren't feeling A-okay, it was like, well,
yeah. And it's difficult. It's difficult to let go of like your normal job. Like,
oh yeah.
Like I love like I working in the restaurant industry. Like I sound crazy, but I love it. Like I loved what I was doing, but like sometimes like you just have to let some things go and make room for projects, especially now that we have like people behind us. So
it's like you said, there's a balance of taking care of each other, taking care of, the team in a sense where like you feel responsible to make sure you can show up and like, keep the work flowing in a sense. But there's also a great luxury to have a team that's understanding of, life, unexpected events and, ebbs and flows that you can like adjust around. And that's, really the beauty of like, this line of work is you're able to sort of, adjust those senses. And like you said earlier, bend the limitations when they need to be bent, for yourself, but to keep yourself on like a somewhat of a schedule to be responsible. That does kind of tie into one of our sort of wrap up questions here, which is what has been the most consistent obstacle you faced in your time with the channel?
Ooh, I think like for me, it's been like, I'll just get more personal again. Like just emotional growth, I think as an individual for me has been like a really big thing. Working so closely with like a team of people and also like, like we're producing content and media, but then also like going through all these things in your personal life. It's like learning that like how I show up for myself just in general and like my ability to like take care of myself is like step number one. And I think it's like really like taught me that a lot. And I think it, like you said, it kind of wraps into the question prior. It's like learning to very much like self-manage in the way that like I'm taking care of me, which then reflects on this small group of people that I'm coming into, which then also reflects out to the world, like where I might be emotionally. Cause it's like, I can't fully share everything that I'm going through with the internet while I'm watching something specific, while also simultaneously we want to be the place where people come and decompress. So it's like I have to do a lot of personal work on my end to try to develop myself to be the best version I can be. So that way then we can come in and create the space for people to be able to enjoy a piece of media and unplug from the world for a second and like get out of work, get out of the news cycle, get out of all of these things and connect with something that you like. So I honestly think it's kind of crazy, but for me, I have just emotional growth like as an individual.
I would say a lot of it is kind of nailing down what content that we're going to do and when, and kind of getting that solidified, because there are shows that we have watched that we have enjoyed massively that like YouTube doesn't care about. Severance. You know what I mean? Severance. Even though that audience is getting a lot bigger, but it's like there's something, it's kind of finding that comfort, because at the end of the day, we don't want to just watch things to watch them because they're popular, because we might not necessarily enjoy them the way others will enjoy it, and not to yuck anyone's yum or anything like that. Sometimes that is just the harder piece of it all. So I think us trying to find things that fit like our sensibilities and like what is current at the time and things of that nature. And then also just being okay with like, it's not a hit. It's not a hit. It's not a hit. It's not always about the numbers, because like The Penguin on HBO last winter, that was one of the best shows I have ever watched in my life. And it did 0 numbers. And at the end of the day, if they do a season 2, we'll be back for season 2.
Yeah. Right. Like it was so good.
Yeah. And just trying to always stay true to kind of just the integrity of like what we do enjoy. Right? Like we don't want to go just chasing those numbers, because then you're going to see it in the reaction. You know what I mean? If we're just watching something because it's like, it's big, it's great, but if we're not enjoying it, it's going to play across in camera, and we don't ever want to do that. So kind of getting comfortable with like, hey, we are just going to watch what we are going to enjoy right now. And we have just been so lucky that 95% of the things we have watched, we have thoroughly enjoyed and they've done well. So
there's only been like one instance that we were like, okay, like we'll just put this one down. And like, who knows, like maybe in the future, like depending on where we're at, like individually, maybe things change, like when you are reintroduced to media again. But it's like, for the most part, everything we've watched, we've really like enjoyed. But yeah, that's like a big piece of it, is you kind of have to detach yourself at some point in time. I mean, you can, if you want to be all about numbers, then like get after it. But I think for just ease of enjoyment with how much time goes into everything.
And to keep it authentic, honestly.
And like how you had pointed out, like the shows lock you in for a longer period of time. It's like, do you want to be locked into something that you're pretending to like? Like that's insane.
That's like a long time to fake, because you have to remember, you got to keep faking that reaction.
I know. Well, we always joke, because there's always people who are like, oh, they are pretending, like they've definitely seen this, blah, blah. And I was like, damn, if that was the case, we always say, like, if that was the case, if I was such a good actor, shit, I'd be acting. I'd be in LA right now. Like I'd get the nearest manager that does the best. Like I would be like, here's my repertoire. Like I'm super good at all of this. But it's like, no, like I wish I was that good at it.
Yeah.
I just don't think, at least for us, we could fake.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to do it.
I know I can't. My face says it all.
She definitely couldn't. I think the biggest example of that would be like John Wick. I always bring up John Wick.
Oh yeah.
It's not a day at work if I don't bring up John Wick. But it's
by the time I got to day 3, I was like, not day 3, the movie 3. I was like, I don't even know what's going on. Like I enjoyed it, but like really, and
yeah.
And
then for me, it was more like I like enjoyed just watch. But I think like a part of me really enjoyed Marvels. Like I didn't mind just having like absolutely no plot, just watching completely action, like whatever. So it is interesting. Like that's what I was saying. It's nice having this dynamic with the two of us, because sometimes Arianna will be so forthcoming with her emotions. She's very good at like articulating her immediate emotions, whereas like I can feel things, but then I need a moment to process, and then I think I can kind of like be like, oh, okay, like I feel XYZ way indefinitely about that.
Right.
Which is where I think we can crack jokes and different things. Well, no, I'm not trying to make you choke. I'm sorry, but so
yeah, there's the accusation of like, you know, faking a reaction comes up, you know, still pretty often, and it's there's again, I hope one of the goals of this podcast is to show like there's absolutely no way anyone has time to watch something they've already watched. Like there's no way.
And what are you getting at? The other thing, it's not like it's going to make it a better reaction, so you know to go. Oh, it's like, but you're going to see the person go who knows to go. The gas, you're gonna see it, you know what I mean? Like it's but it's always it's so really funny. The running joke is like, Dave definitely seen it before. It's like, no, it's just not that hard of a plot to plot out.
And
see it coming.
I always find it interesting too that it's like you want the first time reactions, but I think for some things, like we've been kind of talking about going back and watching like even Shrek, like something that both of us have definitely experienced or seen bits of, like from when we were younger. I would have been like more young, like I would have been a baby. I don't even know. Like, but it's like I see memes, you know, so it's like having familiarity with a piece of content. What is it like to go back and like see that fully, like as an adult now who's like retaining the information, and we're sitting down in such a specific way. So I think for me, it is interesting going back and interacting with media still, regardless of if it's your first time seeing something.
And we're always really transparent,
but being transparent about it, like being like, okay, this is what I'm familiar with this piece of content, and this is what I remember or think that's happening, before going into it, to not mislead anybody. Because I think there are a lot of first time reactions, but I don't know, I think there is value to going back and being like, man, now that I look at that I'm older, like this is a totally different experience with an adult brain as opposed to being a child. And
well, that kind of ties into the next question, which is how do you feel you've personally grown over your time with the channel?
I think my ability actually has lessened, because I do have a tendency, just who I am as a person, is like I get hung up on things with plot wise, because I'm a reader. Like that's another reason why I was never in it. It's like I'm a big reader. I'd rather read 9 times out of 10 than watch shows. So I am a little bit more attuned to following plot points. And when there's like those plot holes, I'm like, but you said earlier if that, so why does that? So I am getting better at allowing myself just to let it ride on certain things. Like it's not that important, because there was a period of time where I was like, I would get hung up. I'd be watching a movie and I'd get hung up, and there was something I would be like, I just don't understand. And people are like, what is there not to understand? I'm like, no. I understand. I'm just saying, but you established this rule in the first act, but now that rule no longer applies.
Yeah.
That's what I understand where we're going. I understand how it ended. I understand that, but I don't. It's very odd that they have thermovision, but magically this mud is now going to mask your thermovision. I'm confused.
My partner's exactly the same way. My partner's, she's exactly the same way. So she'll
so I'm trying so hard
off the movie. She'll be like, hold on, wait, hold on, pause. I need to figure this out before we continue. Yeah.
No, because I was like, I'm like, because then in my brain, because that's like the thing that also gets a little bit confusing too, is you're kind of mad. I was like, no, I'm more mad that I'm I'm mad because I think I missed something, but I didn't miss anything.
Jim Cotta.
Jim Cotta
is a great example of that.
Jim Cotta. Because I was
and
like,
the edit
am
is so
I
funny.
missing something? I don't think I am. Wait, where are we? This, that. And Maple's just like, no, this is fun. And I'm like, no, plot wise.
Sometimes
I don't think, because I've hyperfixated. Because in my brain, if you're taking the time to show me this, it should exist. So I think just kind of being able to have fun, trying to relax in that notion and not be so rigid in the way I think. I'm like, but you told me this was supposed to matter. It's okay if it doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world. Yeah. And I do think working so closely with Chad and stuff, and just it's making, there's a lot more information I now know. I can recognize like, okay, this is why on the cinematography front, because obviously I'm going to understand the script of what makes a good script, or watching someone act great or dialogue. That's kind of, I don't want to say it's kind of obvious, but in a lot of ways it is, especially from having a stage background. But on appreciating cinematography at the heart of it, it's really, that's been really awesome to be able to finally see what makes such a great framing or what makes such a great shot, because I had no idea before. I was like, I could be like, that looks cool, but now I know why my brain finds that looks cool, what they're trying to do with that. And that's been really fun. And that's kind of, I feel like where my education on the backside of things has grown a lot.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that too. Like I feel more culturally connected to art in general, interacting with like cinematography and just films in general. And like I said, it's fun to go back and experience like the demise of the end of Game of Thrones or something significant like Lord of the Rings, like experiencing like these groups of fans. It's very fun to feel like it's
you're
kind
in the
of,
fandom.
you're like, like I'm finally like part of something. Like it feels like I get to like experience
culturally relevant
something with people that's like culturally relevant that like I would have never been introduced to like on my own, or even known how to like seek out community like that. So I think like having a lot of growth in community, and also like just having like friends, like I think like coming, like if we run this to the ground, you know, like I trust that I feel like Arianna, like I've made like a lifelong friend, like out of the situation and the time that we've had working together.
Yeah, for sure.
And also I love photography. And I was really good at like Photoshop and doing all of that, but learning like editing systems, they are two different worlds, even though they kind of involve like the same materials. And I really enjoyed, I've really enjoyed like understanding how much or how little you can do in terms
on the back end,
back end things. And really, I mean, even just like the green screen, like the way that like Chad has created a system of setting up how the edits are done. You know, you can do as much or as little as you want in the reaction space, which is what's also kind of nice about it. But I think being able to still like learn stuff actively about systems, and those systems also go in line with making movies, like using DaVinci and like the cameras that we have, like the lighting, all of this stuff. It's like we were kind of simultaneously doing the thing that we're watching happen on screen, just at a smaller, more specific level. So I've enjoyed that as well. And then, like I said, for me too, I just try to find personal growth in everything that I'm doing. So I think I've learned a lot just about myself in general. And also, I think working on YouTube and online has just given me like a sense of optimism that I didn't necessarily like have before, because even though it's so volatile, like kind of just allowing yourself to just go for something and do it has changed my perspective on things elsewhere in my life and has allowed me to put myself out there more. So I think I've gained like a lot of confidence in general. So yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And again, that ties into the last question of the main part of the interview here, which is what's the most rewarding aspect of the channel beyond any monetary or financial value?
The power of friendship.
The power of friends forever. Something I don't know from my Miami connection. So I'm a millennial, we'll call it what it is. I'll put myself on blast. So I've never really I'm not chronically online. I'm not someone who's like constantly in my DMs or whatever, but I will say I get a lot of messages that just kind of come at the right time, where they're like, hey, I just found your channel. I watched this with you, and let me tell you, I was having the worst week. I've been having the worst time, and you guys really cheered me up, and you picked up my mood, and I just want to thank you for that, because I really just, nothing was making me feel better, and you guys were able to put a smile on my face. And I think that is probably the biggest, that's what warms my heart the most. Again, I come from a space where I've always, for the most part in my professional career, worked with disadvantaged youth, or, the unhoused population. That's always been something. And a lot of why I didn't want to walk away from my day job, quote unquote, was because I didn't want to leave that space. But I will say, when we are receiving those types of messages, it's like, okay, no, I'm still doing the thing. I'm just not doing the thing as directly as I have been before. So I think that's really the most positive for me, for sure.
Right. Yeah, I think that, and for me, it's like, I think I just have like a level of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like that I'm continuously in now, to be able to have like somewhat freedom of time. You know, like I have people I can fall back onto to ask for that freedom of time still, and guarantee that it's there to like just take care of myself, like my family and other people around me, and have the emotional capacity to do that. I think it's well worth like all of the strenuous things that go into it, and all the tedious details. So and just to have community,
100%.
Like
I was gonna bring that up before the end. Yeah,
the chats, like creating these chats on Patreon, and like what good comments like I run into, and DMs and things, like it's nice. Like it's just nice to like have a space that's like such a specific, to connect over something so specific in a specific area. And like I have like a lot of goals for like the future, and like we want to do more, and like my main goal in life is that this can support me into getting into a space where like I am physically connected, like into community. I'm like I had mentioned previously, I'm married to a Michelin chef, and like a lot of the work that goes into like supporting like him, like I'm lucky to have freedom of time, because that's like my biggest connection back into community. And like YouTube and the audience here and the work we do here allows me to do that in my personal life. And so I'm just grateful. Like I'm just very, very grateful for all of that.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. It gives you that luxury to try things, expanding horizons for it. For the community aspect of it, I will say again, I took my first major plane flight this month, and I was binge watching your Stranger Things reactions on the flight to help me calm down. So
which is wild, because we were anything but calm.
Yeah, 100%.
That helps me gauge like, okay, I'm just sitting here. I'm not going through it like them. So
but good job.
Yeah.
Flying can be so scary. Like, good job. Because and especially right now, like it makes it seem like it's so scary to fly. So good job. Because
I think I appreciate it. We do our final questionnaire that we give to everyone, just 10 questions down the line for you. Again, you can be as quick or as expansive as you want. Sure, yeah. The first question is, what's your favorite TV show of all time?
Personally, for me, I am trash. I love all CW. So One Tree Hill, Vampire Diaries, all those, Grey's Anatomy. Woo!
I think mine is Bee and Puppy Cat, which I'm blessed now that came to Netflix. That started originally on Cartoon Hangover on YouTube, because I was always on my phone. But I love Bee and Puppy Cat, and I was like ecstatic when there was actually like a TV show on Netflix now. So
I have to look that one up.
It's so good.
What's your favorite film of all time?
Oh, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh yeah. Honestly, that like changed. It was a little bit life-changing. Like my heart needed something out of that for sure. Yeah, I think one I've watched for the channel that I think is really up there, though, that Maple hasn't seen yet, we're going to get her to see that, Green Mile. The
Oh,
Green
yeah.
Mile.
Oh, yeah, I have
was
not watched that
awesome,
yet.
and we got to get
That'd
her
be a
on
good
that.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I have one more show to add. Sorry, I have to go back to one. I have to say Severance because
Oh yeah,
Of course, yeah.
that's true.
I got so disgustingly hyper fixated
it was
on that.
beautiful.
Arianna was
it was
like,
honestly beautiful.
Arianna was like, okay, like she just really like had to like
I let
sit
her
back
take
and just
the
let me
reins.
take it. But she was like, hey, in the future, like you gotta let some other people lead. And I was like, oh my God, I got so deep in the hole. Like I was like researching pepper shakers. Like it got crazy. But yeah.
That's fair.
Anyway,
I
sorry.
totally understand.
So Green Mile, yeah, I haven't watched that. I don't actually know anything about that.
We need to watch it for the channel. It's just it's a thick boy, so we got to figure out when to get it scheduled in.
Okay.
Yeah. I totally
and
understand
I-
that though. Severance though. I
Yeah.
get that.
I think for my movie, Spirited Away also.
Yeah.
I love
Mhm.
Spirited Away
Great one.
on top of Everything Everywhere All at Once. I have to note that
course.
because that's like my comfort movie. If I'm sad, I gotta,
Mhm.
I lean into that. So
What stresses you out?
Everything. Within the reaction space or just in general? Because
In general.
in general.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Oh man, I'm is
the state of
the
everything.
I
That's
mean,
fair.
I mean, in the year of our Lord and Savior 2025, right now, everything previously, yeah, still a lot. I'm high functioning anxiety till I
Yeah.
die at this point. I got panic disorder, so everything. But I would say my number one like stressor that stresses me out at driving. Driving is other people's driving. That's probably it.
Yeah, that's very
for
fair.
me, yeah, other than the state of just everything in general, again being high anxiety, mine would be more of just like I'm a doer, man. I get hyper fixated on my goals, so like mine comes down to probably like accomplishments. Like I get like really like stressed about like
Not being where you should be in something.
like how
Yeah.
like do I need to be farther? But then I also get stressed about like if I'm feeling this way, then if I reach something, am I gonna feel like it's enough? So I think like that's probably my biggest stressor is like trying to mitigate my anxiety around like achievements.
Mhm. Right. That makes sense. Well, conversely, what helps you relax?
My family.
Mhm.
And I think just like connecting with my friends. I like reading and I think yoga. Like I did a lot with yoga over the last year.
Yeah. Working out for sure. And then also reading, and like if I can get in a body of water with reading, that's really what I prefer. As I go full lobster hands while talking about it. Like,
She's
I'm
like
excited. You can
the
tell.
book. Like you're just
Like, but yeah, no, I'm a big water baby. I'm like, if you can give me some water and I can be reading a book. And honestly, right now, the worst book I could possibly be reading is my favorite type book. Like I'm just like, I want barely a plot line. It's so funny because I'm the first to be mad watching a TV show and movie where the plot's terrible. But right now, I'm like, give me like barely a storyline.
Yeah.
But like a lot of inner monologuing about things that don't make sense in a body of water, and I'm happy.
Yeah, just a vibe. Yeah.
Yeah.
What hobby or passion do you have outside of TV and film? Possibly reading. That's might be the one.
I like doing I've started doing like more like arts stuff just in general, like other art forms. So like I've done like pottery, painting. I also, since I still really enjoy like the restaurant industry, we've gone and done like tours to local farms and like understanding like I love just botany. I love botany. I love like agricultural. That's what I want to get into eventually is like farming, agriculture. I really want to farm bison. So like I've gone to bison farms, learning more just about food, how it's grown. That's probably like one of my bigger things I enjoy researching. Yeah.
I'm really passionate about community advocacy. It's something that I really really, really am extremely passionate about. I would love to start a nonprofit that focuses on crossing the bridge where, you know, the needs just aren't being met within very specific communities, whether it be locally or at a higher level. It's just a matter of kind of navigating those times well in these times. So yeah. But yeah, my end goal, end all be all is like, I would love to have a nonprofit that is helping disadvantaged youth kind of come into their own.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. That's very, very, very admirable.
Yeah. So it's funny. I think like the hobby ends up being like the thing that I'd like to retire into.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, that's the best kind. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. Cause similar. And I keep trying to find ways. I'm like, how could Arianna and I like integrate like our things together? Because like, I think food is like such a connector just for things in general. It's being able to farm stuff and just like give that back into the community. And like, I've already been working with people who are doing that to some degree within like the Michelin level. And so it's possible. It's just like right now, fueling the hobby is like seeing other people doing it and realizing that like the things that we want out of our hobbies are possible because people are doing them. So
yeah, of course. Yeah, makes sense. What is your comfort show or film? I know you mentioned Spirited Away, but if there's another one.
Ooh, right. My comfort show right now, because I go back and forth. It's all Grace is always there. Gilmore Girls, it's fall season, baby. So give me a dose of Stars Hollow and some coffee. And like, I hate to say it, like there's a lot of thing where I just fall very strictly into the obvious millennial box. And it is those things for sure.
My comfort show, I think it's tough because it's Bee and Puppy Cat and then the Spirited Away. But I've been watching a lot of Bluey.
Oh yeah, I got her on Bluey because that's like what me and my partner watch when we've had a really bad day. And
and 100%. That's my comfort show now.
We don't have kids; it doesn't matter.
I do not have kids. Like
so
I was like eating my breakfast this morning, watching Bluey, like getting up and So I have to say that.
Yeah, I've done a few reaction edits for Bluey for another channel preview too. Just finished watching it on their channel. Yeah, so it's
so
it's really sweet show.
Good for them.
So good. Yeah,
I am muffin at my core.
Yeah, I love it.
What fictional character do you relate to or just care deeply about?
In the movies and TV sphere.
Yeah, or it could be literature if you have literature.
I've got to narrow this down. I've got too many, so let's not go literature.
Okay.
So I care deeply about a lot of characters, but that's because I care deeply about a little bit too much thing, hence the anxiety. But I will say, in recent media that I've seen, Georgia and Ginny, watching, even though I'm clearly not in that age bracket, kind of watching a person of color with a mix, like with a white mother and a black father, and that kind of really firmly on display in media and mainstream media especially. It's because watching her, it was like, ooh, this feels so much like watching how it was like for me growing up and in that kind of area and that things. And I was like, wow, that's kind of hitting the nail on the head a little bit, you know, just kind of the dynamics, like without the murder and things of that nature, because that wasn't going on. But yeah, I think Ginny in that show like really it's kind of like a breath of fresh air. I give up. Anyway, you see what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so that I think most recently it was really cool to see on screen and play out.
Yeah, I don't know who I would be most like. I've never thought of that.
Relate to or
but I've never
connected
to. I just am going to keep talking about Bee and Puppy Cat.
That's fair. Yeah.
Well, Bee, one of the reasons why I like that show so much is because like Bee is like just kind of like out in the world, like trying to do her thing and like figure it out as best as she can. But like in the original YouTube pilot, like her socks don't match and like she's got big crazy hair and like she finds this little like puppy cat, and like they go on adventures together. And like for me, it's always just been me and my dog, like Autumn, kind of running around, and like I've just been like kind of crazy trying to figure it out. And her best friend is a chef, and like so I'm married to a chef, and like I just think it's funny, and she's just different. So I feel like Bee I relate to a lot. And then otherwise, I think I like Everything Everywhere All at Once. I really like the dynamic of characters in that movie. Because I think a lot of what I've like grown to do or read about, or like some of the points in my life of like biggest learning things, is through like healing like generational trauma, like through like your parents' perception and like what was put onto them via the older generation before. And I think while, you know, I'm not necessarily like going through specifically like what those characters on screen were going through, I have an understanding of like what that looks like. My ancestry is Native American, but I have adopted family members. And so like being like in the country in which like my lineage is originally from, while also being disconnected and like, but in part because of this trauma that has ensued over generations, it's like watching that, I think I just felt connected to that, because like a lot of the things that like I want to do are in part to like pay back to this portion of me that like generations previously like haven't had the luxury to connect to. Hence like the farm, like bison farming, like there's a lot that you can do like for native communities to cultivate like these natural animals that are supposed to be here for our land. Like they're really, really good for like the region of America. That's me hyper focusing on it. But it's like just watching, I think like something like that where it's like, you know, like in every lifetime, like we're learning lessons. I think I like to think deeply about things, and I don't know, I just love the characters and like Waymond and the positivity, and also like these struggling relationships that you might have with people that you don't see eye to eye, and like where the disconnect is happening. So
I definitely relate to that. Everything Everywhere All at Once is one of my top 5 films.
For sure.
What would be your number one? What's your number one?
It's funny, it's a film called Short Term 12.
Short Term 12.
It's a indie film that came out in 2013-14. It's with Brie Larson. It's about her working at a facility called Short Term 12 for disadvantaged youth, and like that had to be housed there because they can't live with their families, stuff like that. So it's a really beautiful film. I would highly recommend seeing it. Amazing. I don't know how
look into it for sure.
Favorite reaction would be, but like it'd be, I would definitely love to see anyone react to it because it's such a film. What show or film give you your favorite reaction experience with the channel?
Oh, I think The Thing.
The Thing.
Because it was one of the first things we watched together. And that, just from start to finish, it was a great experience. It was one of the first things, I think it was the first thing we watched together.
I believe it was. It was the very first. Yeah, and I'm in all black because I'd gotten off work.
Yeah, it was like the very first thing that we reacted to with together. And it was just like, it was just a great combination.
And we still we kind of quote our reaction from that the most
a lot
is Helicopter Cowboy.
Like Kurt Russell.
Yeah, Kurt Russell. I think
that and then that's it. I can't think of
that's a great one. It's always a classic. What show or film do you wish you could erase from your memory and react to again for the first time on camera?
Ooh, I would love to do probably either The Green Mile or Schindler's List again.
All right.
Which two I have not seen either of those.
Then you'd be able to see it together for the first time.
I wasn't even thinking that, as much as I would just would love to go back with completely fresh eyes and do it again, just because they were.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Anything that you're like, oh, I want to see that again. Because I'm just gonna be honest, Interstellar should have been up there, but I don't think I want to go through that trauma again. I gave myself a headache crying in that
Chad and I watched Mandy with Nicolas Cage.
Right.
That movie was so freaking good, and it did butt numbers. Like no one even watched it, but that movie was so freaking good. And just for the cinematography, just like seeing all of that for the first time again, I would totally love to watch that again for the first time. It's such a random pick, but I just think visually it was such a beautiful looking movie that if I could just experience the feeling of seeing how the colors, the lights, like all of that again, I would pick that, which is such a random movie, but
no, that's a great pick. Both great picks, I would say. And the final question here is, what advice would you give to your past self if you can go back in time when you first joined the channel?
Oh. I think it's like, say the thing that you're worried to say. Because like, again, at the time it's one of the things where like I said, there's not a lot of filter coming through regardless. I think just be because a lot of time you're like, ooh, if I say that, you know, it's not going to be a little too risky or whatever. And I think self-censoring yourself, it is always going to do more harm than good. I think about some things, like don't be crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. If you're operating from a space of good intentions, I think just like say the thing that you think is gonna be. If what you think is funny and is gonna makes you laugh, just say it. Because that was something. It was like I would think really dumb things in my head, and then the more it went on, I would just say the dumb thing I was thinking in my head, and that it always worked out. It played well versus just trying to censor myself.
And for me, I think I wish I could have like instilled like, so just being like, it's good to be social, like more social, like because that's kind of what I was learning at that time. I wish that I could have like had some foresight just to remind myself at that time, like, no, like you can be social and like you should put yourself out there and just keep doing it. Like it's a good thing to like put yourself in front of people and like just be you. Kind of same thing. Like it's the same kind of idea, I think, just from like a different perspective. Like because I'm actually more introverted, I think, than most. I have a tendency to think about like how I'm gonna connect or talk to people when I'm doing it. So it can be a little difficult for me to like present myself in such a free and open space. Cause like if I'm bartending, I'm a bartender. So like I'm putting on the hat of the bartender and I'm showing up and like that's what I'm doing, and I'm entertaining people with drinks for the night, and I only have to do so much. But when you're reacting, it's like a lot of that is reliant on how much you're willing to just be yourself. And so like I think just if I could go back and remind myself like it, like just be you, like it's good, like you can do that. And I feel like I have done that, but having a voice to comfort me back then would be nice.
Of course. Yeah. That's, I think it's, again, something you learn over time is just how to be more of yourself. And it's something that's hard. I think we don't get a lot of training or experience with, aspects, because we all, like you said, we all have to put on certain hats depending on where we're at. And
it feels cringe somehow when it's undirected, like but cringe is free. Like
cringe is free.
To be cringe is to be free.
Put that on a t-shirt.
To be cringe is to be
Maple, Arianna, thank you so much for joining me today. This is one of our longer episodes, but it was a blast just to talk to you and hear your...
Of course it was.
Yeah, of course.
We're both a little long-winded. Sorry.
No, I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Of course, yeah. Where can we find you on YouTube, social media, anywhere otherwise?
Yeah, we're on Diegesis YouTube. We also have Camp Diegesis. We have the Diegesis anime channel, but Diegesis is like our original channel. We are also on TikTok and Instagram. We've been working on trying to put more content out on other just platforms for people. And then we're definitely like extremely active on Patreon, which is linked on our main YouTube channel and also the description boxes of all of the pages. We've got our own social media accounts as well, but in terms of like the reaction community, we've got like a few different areas that if people want to jump on, they
want to come connect.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us. You can find me at Nerdchronic across social media. You can find us at the Reactorverse across social media as well. You'll find links to our Patreon and Discord down below. We'll catch everyone on the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.